we're trying to top what we do every single year.
Right.
And it's getting a little bit more difficult. Like this year we were like, I don't know, do we buy everyone a house? Like we didn't know like what to like the car. Kaley Cuoco was making $1 million per episode. $24 million a year. More money than most people will ever see in a lifetime. Then she did something that shocked Hollywood. She walked into a room with her co-stars and agreed to give some of it away. Not because anyone forced her. Not because the studio asked. She made that choice on her own. When she explained why, people finally understood what was really happening behind the scenes of The Big Bang Theory. You know, the writing was unbelievable. Obviously, the cast, we had great chemistry from the beginning. And it just, you did a little bit of luck, you know? Kaley Cuoco's story could have easily gone in a very different direction. Long before people knew her as Penny, she was a small kid with a tennis racket almost as big as her arm. She started playing when she was only 3 years old, and she took the sport seriously from the very beginning. While other kids were still learning how to hold a racket, she was already smashing balls across the court with surprising power. By the late 1990s, she had climbed into the national amateur rankings in Southern California. In 1998, she finished the year ranked 56 in girls' 14 singles, and even reached number 12 in doubles with her partners. For many young athletes, that kind of ranking would be the beginning of a professional career. Kaley trained hard in the California sun, spending long hours sweating through drills and tournaments. Her parents supported the dream, but they also wanted her to explore acting at the same time. They believed having two passions meant she would always have a backup plan. So while Kaley was chasing tennis matches on weekends, she was also stepping onto film sets during the week. That second path started surprisingly early. When she was just 6 years old, she appeared in a thriller called Quicksand No Escape. The film aired on television and placed a tiny Kaley right beside the legendary actor Donald Sutherland. She played Connie Reinhardt, a frightened child caught in a dangerous situation where quicksand traps and a violent stalker threaten her family. It was a heavy story for such a young kid, yet she handled the scenes with calm focus. The experience earned her a Young Artist Award nomination and showed people that the little tennis player had real talent in front of a camera. Even with that early success, her childhood never became simple. Acting brought attention, but it also brought problems at school. After appearing in commercials and small roles, some classmates treated her differently. Instead of enjoying a normal school life, she eventually switched to homeschooling so she could focus on auditions and filming. That choice quietly pushed her further into the entertainment world. Meanwhile, tennis still pulled at her heart. She loved the discipline and the competition. Every match demanded focus, patience, and resilience. Those long hours on the court built a mental toughness that would later help her survive the unpredictable world of Hollywood. But by the time she reached her mid-teens, something became clear. Acting was growing faster than tennis ever could. Roles were getting bigger. Casting directors were starting to remember her name. So in 2002, at 16 years old, she made a choice that changed her entire future. She walked away from a promising tennis career and decided to chase acting full-time. It was a risky decision. There were no guarantees and no safety net. A lot of young performers disappear before anyone notices them. But Kaley trusted her instincts. She picked scripts instead of rackets and stepped into Hollywood with everything she had. That decision carried both excitement and pressure. Around the same time, she completed her homeschooling and earned her diploma. Now she was fully committed. Instead of tournaments, she spent her days auditioning, rehearsing, and learning the rhythm of television production. Many young actors spend years hoping for a breakout moment. Kaley's arrived sooner than anyone expected. Before that breakthrough fully arrived, though, her early career filled with small roles that demanded enormous effort. One of those moments came when she was only 10 years old. She appeared in the science fiction thriller Virtuosity. The movie placed her in scenes with Denzel Washington, who played a police officer hunting a digital killer brought to life by Russell Crowe. Kaley played Karen Carter, the daughter of a psychologist who becomes caught in the chaos of the story. The film itself struggled when it was released, and critics were not kind to it. Yet for a child actor, it was an intense experience. The sets were filled with explosions, special effects, and complicated action scenes. Kaley had to show fear and confusion while cameras rolled and crews moved quickly around her. She watched experienced actors work and quietly absorbed every lesson she could. Even though the movie did not succeed at the box office, the experience gave her confidence. She had survived a huge production and proved she could handle pressure. A few years later, another opportunity appeared, though it came with a painful lesson. At 12, she filmed a small role in the romantic comedy Picture Perfect alongside Jennifer Aniston. Kaley had a single line in a wedding scene, and she rehearsed it carefully. For a young actor, that moment felt enormous. She was sharing the screen with a star whose career was exploding thanks to Friends. But when the film was finished, the scene was cut during editing. Her line disappeared completely. For a child who had worked hard to earn that chance, it hurt deeply. Still, the moment taught her something important about the business. Hollywood could be unpredictable and sometimes unfair. Scenes vanish, projects fail, but actors who survive are the ones who keep moving forward. That determination carried her through many guest appearances. She appeared on Northern Exposure as a mysterious young girl imagined by a pregnant character during a strange, dreamlike moment. She also played a younger version of Angela Chase in My So-Called Life, capturing the emotional depth of the character in a short flashback scene. Later, she showed up on Seventh Heaven as a teenage girl navigating family drama. Each role was brief, sometimes only a day or two of filming, but every appearance sharpened her skills. Around the same time, she landed her first recurring part on a sitcom called Sparks. The show was not a massive hit, and many people barely remember it today, yet it became an important training ground for her. For the first time, she experienced the rhythm of a television series. There were weekly table reads, rehearsals, and long filming days with a live audience. She learned how to hit her marks, deliver lines naturally, and keep energy high through multiple takes. Even though the series ended after 2 seasons, the experience prepared her for something bigger waiting ahead. Another unusual part of her journey was the team that surrounded her. In an industry where actors constantly switch agents and managers, Kaley chose loyalty. She began working with her core team around the age of 15 and kept them through the biggest moments of her career. While other stars chased new representation after every success, she trusted the people who believed in her from the start. That stability helped guide her through the ups and downs of fame and allowed her to focus on the work itself. While Kaley was building her career, her family remained close to the process. Her younger sister, Kaley Cuoco, grew up watching everything unfold. Eventually, Brianna stepped into entertainment as well, finding her own path through music, acting, and voice work. The sisters later even shared the screen in animated projects, voicing characters together and showing the playful bond they built growing up in the same creative household. Their parents supported both daughters from the beginning. Their father worked in real estate and helped fund early auditions while their mother handled homeschooling during busy filming schedules. All of these experiences slowly built momentum. And then in 2002, a role arrived that changed everything. Kaley auditioned for a new sitcom called 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter. She competed against hundreds of young actresses for the role of Bridget Hennessy, the cheerful and slightly clueless teenage daughter in a chaotic family. When she finally won the part, she was only 16 years old. The show premiered in September 2002 and quickly found a huge audience. John Ritter played her protective father, while Katie Sagal played her mother. The story focused on the challenges of raising teenagers, and viewers loved the mix of humor and real family struggles. Kaley's performance as Bridget brought charm and energy to the series, turning her into a recognizable face almost overnight. On set, John Ritter became more than just a co-star. He treated the younger cast members like family. Before every taping, the group would gather together and share a quiet moment, looking each other in the eye and saying they loved one another. Ritter also gave Kaley small pieces of advice that stayed with her forever. He encouraged her to focus on the truth of a scene rather than trying too hard to impress the audience. Comedy, he believed, worked best when actors trusted the moment. Then, something heartbreaking happened. During rehearsals for the second season on September 11, 2003, Ritter suddenly became very sick. He complained about severe chest pain and nausea and was rushed to the hospital. Doctors believed he was suffering from a heart attack, but the real cause was a tear in his aorta, known as an aortic dissection. The condition caused internal bleeding, and despite efforts to save him, he passed away that night. He was only 54. The news shattered everyone on the show. Kaley was just 17 and had formed a deep connection with him during their time working together. Earlier that day, she had visited his dressing room after hearing he felt unwell. He sat with her for a moment, hugged her tightly, and told her he loved her. Those words became the last thing he ever said to her. Production stopped immediately. The cast and crew struggled to process the loss. For weeks, the set remained silent, while everyone tried to heal. Eventually, the writers decided to honor Ritter by weaving the tragedy into the story. A special episode called Goodbye explained that Paul Hennessy had passed away, allowing the characters to grieve just as the actors were doing in real life. The show continued for a while after that. New characters joined the cast, and the writers tried to rebuild the rhythm of the series. But the heart of the show had changed. Without Ritter's warmth, the atmosphere felt different. Ratings slowly fell, and the sitcom ended in 2005. For Kaley, the experience was painful, but also transformative. Losing a mentor so young forced her to grow up quickly. She learned that the entertainment industry never pauses for grief. Cameras return, scripts arrive, work continues. That lesson strengthened her resilience and shaped the way she approached every role that came afterward. Even during those difficult years, she kept working nonstop. She voiced characters in animated series, appeared in television films, and accepted guest roles wherever she could find them. There was no long break after the show ended. She pushed forward, determined to stay visible in an industry where actors can easily disappear. Kaley Cuoco was only 20 years old in 2006 when she first walked into an audition room for a brand new sitcom that nobody knew would one day become huge. The show was called The Big Bang Theory, but the version she auditioned for looked very different from what people later saw on TV. The female lead was not Penny yet. Her name was Katie, and Katie was nothing like the sweet neighbor people eventually loved. Katie was written as a rough and sharp character. In the story, she would trick nerdy guys by pretending she had just been dumped. She would cry, tell a sad story, and then take advantage of their kindness. It was dark humor. The creators Chuck Lorre and Bill Prady watched Kaley read the part, but they felt something was off. She looked too young, too warm, too bubbly for a character that mean. So they thanked her and sent her home. Instead, they gave the role to another actress named Amanda Walsh. Soon, the pilot episode was filmed and shown to test audiences. And the reaction was brutal. People did not just dislike Katie, they hated her. Viewers called her harsh and unpleasant. The energy of the show felt wrong, and suddenly the whole project looked like it might die before it even started. Networks were not excited. Some thought the show had no future at all. But Chuck Lorre had already built a strong reputation with shows like 2.5 Men. So CBS decided to give him one more chance. Instead of fixing the pilot, they made a bold move. They threw the character of Katie away completely and started over. The writers created someone new. This time, the woman next door would be friendly, funny, and easy to relate to. She would be a struggling waitress with a big heart. Her name would be Penny. Big names came in to audition for the new role. Marisa Tomei tried. Tara Reid tried. Many actresses wanted it. Yet Chuck Lorre kept thinking about the young actress he had turned away earlier. So he called Kaley back and told her something simple. The character is new now. We want you to try again. Kaley walked in again, this time at 21, and everything suddenly felt right. During the chemistry reads, she noticed Jim Parsons struggling with his brand new phone, pressing buttons and looking confused. The moment made her laugh. That small, awkward moment broke the tension in the room, and their chemistry appeared instantly. The creators saw it too. That small change saved the entire show. A character that once threatened to sink the series became the heart of it. Even after the show finally aired in 2007, its future was still shaky. The first season started quietly, with around 9 million viewers. That might sound big, but for a network comedy, it was not impressive at all. The show struggled in its Monday night slot, and critics dismissed it as a small nerd comedy that might disappear quickly. Some executives at CBS quietly considered canceling it before the first season even ended. Still, Chuck Lorre's history kept the show alive. The network trusted him enough to give it more time. Ratings stayed around 8 to 10 million viewers, which was not terrible but far from a hit. For a while, the show just floated in the middle, unsure of its place. Then everything changed with a simple scheduling decision. In season 3, CBS moved the show to Thursday nights, right after 2.5 Men. Suddenly, millions of new viewers discovered it. The numbers jumped quickly. By 2010, the audience exploded to 15 and even 20 million viewers a week. At the center of that growth was Penny. Kaley Cuoco's character became the emotional bridge between the audience and the group of awkward scientists. While Sheldon and Leonard argued about physics and comic books, Penny brought warmth, humor, and common sense into their world. Families watching the show felt connected to her. She reacted to the strange nerd chaos exactly the way the audience did. That one character rewrite changed everything. What once looked like a failed pilot slowly turned into one of the biggest sitcoms in television history. And the young actress who had once been rejected suddenly found herself at the center of it all. In the beginning, the money did not look impressive either. During the first season, Kaley earned around $45,000 per episode. For a brand new sitcom, that was normal, but it still meant the entire first season paid her less than some guest stars on larger shows. CBS treated the series carefully because nobody knew if a comedy about scientists would really work. But as the show slowly grew stronger, the numbers changed quickly. By the second season, her salary jumped to $200,000 per episode. A few seasons later, it climbed to $350,000. The show kept growing, and the audience kept expanding across the world. Eventually, the main trio of Kaley Cuoco, Jim Parsons, and Johnny Galecki became the center of the series. Fans even started calling them the Holy Trinity of the show. Their chemistry drove the story, and the network knew it. When new contract negotiations arrived, their salaries exploded. By 2014, they signed a deal that shocked Hollywood. Each of them would earn $1 million per episode. With 24 episodes in a season, that meant around $24 million a year. For Kaley, it felt unreal. Only a few years earlier, she had been a young actress, hoping a sitcom might survive its first season. Yet one of the most surprising moments came much later. Two other actresses on the show, Mayim Bialik and Melissa Rout, had become fan favorites, but their salaries were still far behind the rest of the cast. When the pay gap became public, something unusual happened. Instead of ignoring it, the top 5 actors decided to fix it themselves. Kaley, Parsons, Galecki, Simon Helberg, and Kunal Nair each agreed to take a $100,000 pay cut from every episode. That money was redirected to increase the salaries of their co-stars. It was a rare move in television, where money often creates tension instead of unity. Kaley later said it felt natural because the cast had become like a family. By the time the show ended after 12 seasons, Kaley Cuoco had earned well over $150 million from the series alone. And the earnings did not stop there. Because the show became one of the most successful syndicated comedies ever, reruns started playing everywhere around the world. New contracts gave the main trio a small percentage of those profits. That tiny percentage turned into something massive. The show earns around $1 billion a year from global reruns. Even after the finale in 2019, Kaley continues to receive around $10 million every year from residuals. But money was only one part of the story. Behind the scenes, something else had quietly been happening during the early seasons of the show. While Penny and Leonard were slowly falling for each other on screen, Kaley Cuoco and Johnny Galecki were developing feelings in real life, too. The spark appeared during a scene in the first season when Leonard had to rescue Penny inside a broken elevator shaft during a dream sequence. They had to stand extremely close while filming, holding each other face to face for a long time. Kaley already had a crush on Johnny by then. She later admitted her heart was racing during that scene. Johnny felt the shift as well. Something about the closeness made it impossible to ignore the chemistry anymore. Not long after that, Johnny sat alone one evening at the Smokehouse restaurant in Burbank. He sent Kaley a simple text message asking if she wanted to join him for a drink. She was 45 minutes away, but drove there almost immediately. They talked, laughed, and eventually kissed in a quiet corner of the bar. From that moment, the relationship began. But it had one strict rule. Nobody could know. Johnny worried that if fans discovered the actors playing Leonard and Penny were dating in real life, it might damage the story on the show. Kaley was naturally more open and hated the secrecy, yet she agreed to keep it hidden. For 2 years, they lived inside that secret. They worked together every day, filmed romantic scenes, and then quietly continued their relationship away from the cameras. Friends did not know at first. The public definitely did not know. Eventually, the pressure of hiding everything became exhausting. Their lives revolved around the show, and the mystery that once felt exciting slowly disappeared. In 2009, they decided to end the relationship peacefully. There was no big fight, no betrayal. They simply realized the romance had run its course. Mark Salling was once known to millions as Puck from the hit show Glee. On screen, he played the rebellious bad boy with a soft side. Fans loved the attitude, the smirk, the confidence. But behind that fame, something dark was quietly growing in his private life. And in 2015, everything began to fall apart. It started when an ex-girlfriend contacted the police. What she told them was disturbing enough that the LAPD quickly moved forward with a search. Officers raided Salling's home in Shadow Hills and began examining his computers, thumb drives, and hard drives. What they found shocked even experienced investigators. Authorities said there were more than 50,000 images and hundreds of videos. Many showed prepubescent children being abused. Some victims were so young they were still infants. The discovery instantly turned a television star into the center of a federal investigation. Prosecutors charged him with 2 counts related to possession of child pornography. If convicted at trial, he could have faced up to 20 years in prison. The case dragged on for months while lawyers negotiated behind the scenes, and by October 2017, Salling finally agreed to a plea deal. Under that deal, he admitted guilt to possessing material involving a prepubescent minor. The agreement came with severe consequences. He would have to pay $50,000 in restitution to each victim. He would also be required to register as a sex offender for life. The plea expected a prison sentence of 4 to 7 years, followed by 20 years of supervised release. Strict restrictions would control where he could live, banning him from living near schools, parks, pools, playgrounds, or anywhere children gathered. Contact with minors would be completely forbidden. The court scheduled his official sentencing for March 7, 2018. For many people, it looked like the final chapter of a scandal that had already destroyed his career. But the story took a darker turn before the court date ever arrived. On January 30, 2018, hikers walking near the Los Angeles River in Sunland made a grim discovery in a quiet area of Tujunga Canyon. They found Mark Salling hanging from a tree. He was 35 years old. Just hours earlier, he had been at home with his father, watching television. When morning came, his mother woke up and realized both he and his car were gone. News of his death stunned many people who had known him personally. Friends remembered the musician they thought they knew. They described someone funny, creative, and gentle away from the cameras. Yet the investigation into his computer had already exposed something horrifying that none of them expected. When the autopsy report came out, it painted a clear but grim picture. The official cause of death was asphyxia from hanging. Investigators ruled it a suicide and found no signs of a struggle or outside involvement. Toxicology results showed alcohol in his system. His blood alcohol level was around the legal driving limit, but there were no drugs in his body, and doctors did not find any pills in his stomach. One detail quickly fueled rumors across the internet. His body was cremated only a week after his death. Online forums and conspiracy posts exploded with speculation. Some people connected it to the so-called Glee curse, a strange pattern fans talked about after other tragedies tied to the show. Actor Corey Monteith had died from a drug overdose years earlier, and whispers about bad luck around the cast were already spreading. Still, officials closed the investigation quickly. They said the evidence clearly pointed to suicide. People who had been close to Salling admitted that the news about the files on his computer had shocked them deeply. One insider said the charming musician they thought they knew seemed to vanish overnight once the investigation began. There had also been quiet signs that something was wrong long before his death. Some friends mentioned strange moments when he appeared deeply distressed. Rumors spread that he had once harmed himself during a breakdown, though others denied that story. People remembered how he often wore long sleeves even during warm weather. At one point, he had even entered a psychological rehab program before the case reached its final stage. Just days before his death, his attorney tried to present a different picture. The lawyer described Salling as someone who was trying to take responsibility and make amends for terrible mistakes. He called him a creative person who was attempting to atone for what had happened. Those words would become the last public defense spoken on his behalf. Meanwhile, former girlfriends told their own disturbing stories. One woman named Roxanne Gorzella had already filed a lawsuit years earlier. She claimed that during their relationship in 2011, he pressured her into unprotected sex and then pushed her down when she confronted him about it. The case eventually led to a legal victory for her, awarding millions in damages. But the payment became complicated once Salling died, turning into a long battle involving his estate. The home in Shadow Hills where the investigation began became the center of those legal struggles. After his death, the criminal case against him ended automatically, since a defendant cannot be sentenced after dying. But the civil claims did not disappear. Lawyers for victims began pursuing money through his remaining assets, which meant his parents and brother had to face months of legal fights while also grieving. For fans watching from the outside, the whole situation carried an eerie sense of irony. When people revisited old episodes of Glee, some scenes suddenly felt uncomfortable in hindsight. One storyline in the show had even warned about how recording underage sexual content could become child pornography. Hearing that dialogue again, after the real-life scandal, gave viewers a chilling feeling. Even a line from the first season seemed strange after everything that happened. In one scene, Puck jokes about his future possibly ending with jail or death. At the time, it sounded like typical teenage sarcasm from a rebellious character. Years later, fans looked back and felt uneasy about how closely that line matched reality. The show had once been known for its bright music and upbeat energy. But after several tragedies connected to cast members, tabloids and social media began talking endlessly about a supposed curse around the series. Many critics rejected that idea completely, arguing that blaming a curse ignored personal choices and responsibility. By the time the dust settled, the story left behind a complicated and painful legacy. Friends mourned the talent they had lost, yet the horrifying evidence uncovered in the investigation made it impossible to separate the man from the crimes he admitted to. The life that once seemed full of promise had collapsed under the weight of those actions, ending alone in a quiet canyon before the legal system could finish its work.